Hello guys, how you doing? My name is Alex from XX Workshop, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you a breakdown of the 5 tools, that's right, 5 tools that you need to get you started in your woodworking adventure. I just want to start out first by saying, although this is a list of 5 tools I think you need to start woodworking, I am going to say you don't at all need to buy all of these tools to get into it. I think by just buying a couple of them to begin with, you'll be able to get out, do some really cool projects, and as you learn and progress, you can start buying other tools and kind of building up your kit list. Also, I'd like to add, most of these tools can be bought from cheaper brands and save you a lot of cash. Yes, they're not going to be the best tools, but they're going to get you started, get you a lot of experience, and get you making things. The first thing on the list is a drill and impact driver. Now, probably one of the main tools that you'll be using for nearly all the projects you do in woodworking is a drill, and kind of going with that, an impact driver as well. Now, a standard drill is used for actually drilling into wood or putting screws into wood. It's quite multifunctional. They normally have dials on them that kind of let you put in the kind of change the power and the torque of the actual drill itself. Whereas the impact driver will drive screws with a lot more force into the wood that you're putting them into. Now, both drills have their uses, which is why I recommend getting a set of each. It's great to have one with your drill bit in, so when you're drilling maybe your pilot holes, or if you're drilling into concrete or whatever you're doing, you can have that ready to go and then easily switch over to your impact driver to drive the screw or whatever you're kind of putting through into the actual material. You don't really want to be switching drill bits the whole time. It can get super annoying, and to be fair, for the price of a set of 2, you can't really go wrong with it at all. Now, for which one to get, really it comes down to your own preferences. If you've already got some tools, I'd recommend staying with that brand, especially if you're using obviously battery operated tools. You don't want to be buying loads of different batteries for different tools, having loads of different charging stations. It's just going to be annoying. Most shops will sell a twin set, so you'll get your drill and your impact driver, especially with 2 batteries normally as well. The one recommendation I would say on this is to try and get a set that has maybe 2 bigger batteries, either 4 amp or 5 amp. A lot of sets nowadays come with either a 1 or 2 amp batteries, which are okay, and at the moment on my Ryobi set that I have, they're fine, but they do run out quite quickly. And the other annoying thing I found is with the smaller batteries, when you maybe put them on a power tool, which uses a bit more it takes a bit more energy from it, like a circular saw, it just, with a 2 amp battery, it won't cut through things as nicely as it would on a 5 or 4 amp battery. You can pick up a twin set from most hardware stores, probably running you anywhere kind of in the $100 to $200 and similar in the pound range as well. I would say maybe looking at DeWalt, Makita, or Milwaukee, as they seem to be the brands that most of the bigger guys are using at the moment. My second tool is the miter saw. Now, the miter saw was one of the first big tools I purchased as a woodworker, and no, it wasn't this big DeWalt sliding saw, it was a small Ryobi one. Now, personally, I find that these saws are my go-to for most everyday cuts. Making cuts on this saw is as easy as lining up your wood, taking off the guard, going down and sliding through your material. My favourite thing about the miter saw is how small and easily movable they are. Maybe not this one, but a lot of them out there are designed to be taken on and off job sites, moved in and out of houses, and thrown into the back of vans. Now, as much as I'd love to be moving this around all the time, luckily I've got mine built into my own miter saw bench workstation. You'll find with a lot of miter saws that they'll come with a lot of different gadgets, from lights to lasers to clamps. There's so many different things out there, so it's great to have a little shop around and find what's right for you. Most miter saws are also adjustable, so you can change the angle of cut on them. My saw here can go from 50 degrees on one side to 60 on the other, whereas most other saws will come with 45 degrees on either side. Now, my saw here is a DeWalt DWS 780, which is a large professional grade saw. You should definitely not go out and buy this as your first saw, as it's probably just got a bit too much power for what you need. I'd recommend one of the smaller 10-inch saws that maybe hasn't got the sliding function to begin with, as it'll be a little bit more cheaper. You can normally pick these up from anywhere from $100 to $200 and same again in the pounds. Even with the first two tools I've just mentioned of the impact driver and drill and then the miter saw, you could easily go out and build hundreds of different projects with wood.
Number 3 on the list, the table saw.
In simple terms, the table saw is basically an upside down circular saw mounted in a housing. You can then raise and lower the blade depending on the thickness of your material and also tilt the blade to a 45-degree angle. The table saw is mainly used for ripping down larger material and doing repeat cuts using either the fence or mitre gauge. They normally also have these T-grooves cut into the surface of the table saw which can be used to add accessories to. Things like mitre gauges and feather boards to help you with your cuts. The main things to watch out for in a table saw, I find, is the fence. On a lot of cheaper saws, the fence can be quite flimsy as it's normally only attached at the front. Luckily, on my DeWalt saw, it's attached at the front and back and uses this rack and pinion style system to move it along with this wheel. It's also got a handy measuring system where you can set the fence to the exact distance you want away from the blade. My table saw that I've got here is a DeWalt DW745 table saw. It's a portable job site table saw, but once again, like the miter saw I've got here, I've mounted it within my workbench. You can pick up an okay table saw from around the $200 to $300 mark and probably about 150 to 250 pounds. Now saying this, it won't be the best saw in the world at all, but it'll definitely get you going along the way. Out of all the tools on the list, this is probably closer to the bottom on priorities, but it will completely change the way you work with wood. The fourth tool on the list, and probably one of the more dull tools, the sander. Now there's many different sanders you can use within your projects, but if I had to pick one, it would be the random orbit sander. It's definitely not the biggest or fastest sander out there, but I find it gives the cleanest finish. Most random orbit sanders have a 125mm base on which you can add these Velcro sanding pads. These sanding discs come in a variety of grits which will help you work your way up through the sanding process. I'd recommend buying a multi-pack of them through Amazon. You'll probably go through them quite quickly, and I'd probably just get the cheap stuff to begin with, as for most of your projects you don't need to be spending tons of money on different sanding pads. Nearly all the projects you do will probably require some kind of sanding, so having a small little sander like this is perfect to get those jobs done. The sander I've got here is a Makita red random orbit sander. To begin with, I probably wouldn't spend a huge amount on a sander. Something like this runs you about kind of £50 or $80. So something in that region would work well to start with. I'd also like to mention it's probably worth with this tool going corded rather than cordless. I find you can easily be standing for hours on end sanding away on your projects, so having to rely on battery power probably isn't the best idea, and being able to plug in just makes it a lot easier. And number 5 on the list, safety gear. So you've bought all these nice tools and you're ready to start woodworking. Before you get into it though, make sure you're protecting your eyes and your ears. Picking up a decent pair of goggles with some side protection as well and some ear defenders is really all you need to start out with. Woodworking can be super unpredictable, so making sure you're safe while you're working should be your top priority. If something doesn't feel right, stop and take a step back. So guys, that's been my 5 tools to get you started in woodworking. I just want to reiterate guys, I'm not telling you at all to go out and buy all these 5 tools before you can start building anything. One of my favourite things I learned when I started woodworking was how to build different projects with limited tools. If you've got the cash to splash though, I'd recommend getting a drill, a driver and a miter saw, as these were the first 3 tools that I got when I started out woodworking, and I was able to do probably a good 3 or 4 months of woodworking before I felt like I needed to get something else. The 5 tools I've shown you in this video can be found through my Amazon tool list in the description below. If you have any questions or would like to know anything else about my workshop, please leave a comment down below. If you've enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to like the video and consider subscribing. Thank you for watching again, and I'll see you on the next one. Bloody hell. At least I made this thing sturdy.